Hello, parents, doulas, and midwives, and welcome to the People Who Actually Trust Birth Summit. I'm your summit host, Alicia Fishbein, and today we have Haize Hawke with us. Hi, Haize.
Oh,
For those of you who don't know Haize, she is a doula, a Reiki practitioner, and a soon-to-be midwife in the LA area. And she is a Renaissance woman and offers so many wonderful things to the community. Let me just go through this. You're going to be amazed. Transformational meditation series. She offers ancestral lineage composite, Reiki and energy healing, emotional healing, house blessings and cleansing, blessing ways, baby dedication. That's quite a list. And I also want to share with you something that Haize wrote about herself. And I think this will be a wonderful way for you to get to know her. She said, I believe in birth. I believe in the birthing body. I trust the process of birth and all the clearing and alignment that goes with it. When I work with birthing families, I am empowering them to own their births, their bodies, and their process. I follow the ancient birth map and encourage the birth walk of the labyrinth path. Love that, Haize. So
it's
true.
true. Yeah.
Mhm. It's so, and okay, so lead us right into what trust in birth means to you, Haize.
Hmm. When I think of trust in birth, it's twofold, or maybe it's even more, but what I'm feeling and what I'm seeing is that there is a trust of all things, like this that mystery that we don't know about. Like one of my quotes is like the mystery ain't your business.
Mhm.
And
I love that.
and that's because it's not. And just trusting the divine mystery that is, um, and trusting oneself, you
Mhm.
know, trusting the process of birth. It's
Mhm.
beautifully designed. And when we can stay out of the way, it works just brilliantly. Um, and I believe in that. I believe in that wholeheartedly as a entity that's of its own, you know. And when I think of trust, eh, the definition of trust, I think, you know, a charge or a duty that
Mhm.
is imposed in faith
Mhm.
and tenacity and commitment,
Mhm.
you know. So trust means to me that my clients will so trust the process, trust themselves,
Mhm.
trust each other, and trust the dynamic and the mystery that is called birth,
Mhm.
that it just unfolds. It
Mhm.
evolves and unfolds beautifully. When that happens, the synergy is magic. You
Mhm.
know, it's beautiful. And sometimes it's the prep and the work to get to that place of trust.
Mhm.
So I'm
Yeah,
willing to do that with my clients too, you know.
it's
If it's
big
not,
work.
yes, big, huge work.
Mhm. Oh,
Huge.
yeah.
But the reward is self, and that is so incredible.
I love that. So you mean that if we've done the work, we can come to know ourselves better.
Come to know, understand, appreciate, love ourselves better.
What do you say to the parent who's done the work,
Mhm.
and let's say her birth doesn't go the way that she was hoping? She doesn't have this, it doesn't unfold the way she expected it to.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the conversations I have with my clients right away. Just because you hired the doula, you've got the chiro, you've got the acupuncture, you've
Mm.
got the midwife of life, doesn't necessarily mean that this is going to be the birth that you visioned, you know? And I speak to them about their attachment to that vision.
Mm.
What would you do if that was not, you know,
Right.
the outcome? What would you do?
Mm.
Worst possible scenario,
Mm.
what do you make that mean? So we kind of go through that. And still afterwards, there's still some, oh, there's still some trauma, a little PTSD, or just not what they hope. But it's
Mm.
interesting because it can be as varied as there are people on this planet. It's literally what I could think was a powerful, brilliant birth.
Mm.
My client not think it was at all.
Right.
which is why I never say anything until I hear their feedback.
Oh, yes, days. And it goes the other way too, doesn't it? Sometimes I've seen a birth that I think that was really traumatic.
Yes.
Yes.
And they're thrilled.
Yes, exactly. It's
And I'm
amazing.
just shutting up.
Exactly. Exactly. It's so interesting because if we trust that this birth will be everything that these parents need, I think there's so much power. And I think it doesn't, I found, tell me about this. Like, I just want to share a little thought and I want to hear what you think about this. That I found for myself when I look back on my birth stories, particularly my first birth, which was 17 years ago, it has changed and shifted. When I tell that story, it's not the same story that I told right after I gave birth.
Mhm.
Um, Hayes, tell me about why is that? Why is it? Why can our story change?
I think as we grow and evolve, as we die away to our small self, our old self,
Mm,
I think that more is revealed and we have a deeper insight into that moment.
mm,
Yes, it's instant recall and we're going back to like retrieve something, but I believe that it's our growth as, persons that
mm,
allow for more. And when I think about the rite of passage that is birth
mm,
and the things that our families go through as
mm,
they walk that labyrinth, that ancient birth map, um, there is, they meet themselves
mm.
on that path. And as they meet themselves, they might not totally like what they see. There is
Oh,
it's a reckoning, a come to like, oh, this is it moment of who I've been, how I've been with my words. Do I really believe that I can do this? Do I really feel like I'm going to be a great parent?
mm,
If I've been hiding this small little thing about myself that if
mm,
anybody knew, they would say, oh, you shouldn't be a parent.
mm,
All those things happen in birth and happen on that path. And we have to die away to them.
mm,
You know, they fall away and they reveal our higher self, our truer self. If we so deem, if we choose to have it be a rite of passage, if we choose to have it be a transformative event.
That's so interesting what you said. We visited a blacksmith shop recently, and my son was talking with the blacksmith about silver and how you have to heat silver to a really high temperature to burn away all of the impurities. And then what you get is something really beautiful. And I couldn't help but think about birth and how that's our fire of sorts, burning away the impurities. But you really brought up an interesting word, if. So what happens if we don't let it haze?
Well, there are families who just want to have a baby. They don't want to go to the places where I go.
Mm,
That's why it's so great that we have so many types of doulas, so many types of midwives, that
mm,
everybody's particular need is met, you
mm,
know. And for people who want to heal, grow, evolve, release ancestral lineage, let go of personalities and traits that they find are holding them back,
mhm,
then they would find me and we would,
mhm.
honor that. But there are people who just want to have a baby. They just want to go in, get their, medication and be done.
Just that it's so fascinating. Like you said, there are as many kinds of birds as there are people in this world. And I've never seen two birds that are alike.
Yep.
I mean, they can have similarities, you can notice patterns, but they are so varied.
Absolutely. All we know are the mechanics of birth,
Mm,
but each person, each mama is bringing her filtering process, her emotional background, her way that she was brought up, her own true belief system, like all of that is coming into play. So that changes how birth evolves,
it does.
the filter that they see life through.
Mhm. How does that relate to our ancestral line and our mother line?
Well, so how I first learned about this was working with a midwife named Salama, and she was one of the first students of color, the Black woman at the farm, you know?
Really?
Yeah, she's amazing. And she is still like my biggest mentor, right? When we went to Africa, she told me several stories of how they pray over the children, over the bellies, over the mamas. They ask the elders, and they ask questions about this ancestral line, this baby, what does this baby need, and all these things. But sometimes there's a desire from the mother or the father to heal a certain aspect of themselves that they know they got from another member of their family, like anger or procrastination, or things that are that small to things that are huge, like abuse and addictions and things like that. And just to watch her hold space for all that, and to bring in that conversation, and just to speak it out, because literally you have to bring awareness to the issue, whatever that thing is, right? um, so in my community, we do a lot of work on forgiveness, and a lot of work on healing, and a lot of work on letting go. And because otherwise you get, angry people, or people who are perceived as angry. Um, and there's a lot to forgive, in my community as it is. But if we do that work, we cannot pass on the pain trauma aspect of it. We can pass on the knowledge and the wisdom and the history, because
Yes.
that's important. We don't want to forget our history
Yeah.
and what that means, but we can leave the pain body
Yes.
in the ethers, and let it just dissolve. Once you put light on that shadow,
Mm.
it just can't hold space. It can't hold energy. The light allows the dark to disappear.
I
And
love that.
yeah, and usually all of our trauma and our secret shames are something that we put in the dark. So to just speak it out, and to hold it, and to bring it into the feeling body, then we can extract it from that body and put it in the
Mm.
energetic field where we can actually control it.
That's so, that reminds me of something a mentor said to me recently. She said, you cannot heal what you do not acknowledge.
That's beautiful.
Mhm.
That is the truth.
Mhm.
That is the truth. And I guess that comes back to trust, because what we have to acknowledge is that this is women's mysteries, and we've been doing this since the beginning of all things, and our bodies, in this awareness that we are of the animal kingdom.
Mhm.
Just because we walk upright on 2 feet, we kind of forget that, right? But trusting the process. The thing about animals is they do not question anything. They don't judge the pain. They don't question anything. They don't question their need to eat or get up and move or go drink some water. They just innately follow and trust their bodies.
Mhm.
And I think that when we're doing this work, and when I'm working with the ancestral line, or I'm working with a trauma client who wants to release that trauma, one of the beautiful things about that is their ability to take control of it, their ability to have a say so, and for them to learn and or relearn, or if maybe I should say unlearn, how
Mhm.
we deal with our bodies, our women's bodies in America. We're subject, I mean, it's just, of course, there's a lot of issues around it. Of
Mhm.
course, there's some mistrust around it, because we're taught that. We're told that our bodies aren't working, that they're not good enough, that they can't do these things. And so a lot of it is just undoing
Mhm.
the, the, the energetic, emotional, traumatic
Mhm.
conversation that's around women by
Mhm.
itself before we even get to birth.
Mhm. So would you say that it would be helpful to start wherever a woman is in her life cycle, to start right now, whether she is going to be pregnant or she is pregnant, begin right now?
Absolutely. I lead red tents for young girls and for women who want to deepen their relationship to the blood mysteries. But when I work with young girls, the first thing I'm doing is teaching them how to understand that time for themselves, how to understand what their bodies are capable of, to understand the divinity that they hold,
Mhm.
to know how to feed it, nourish it, love it. I just kind of change that dialogue, and I
Mhm.
start them right before, usually when they're developing. So they're young enough to change that dialogue, that narrative that
Mhm.
they pick up on TV or through film or through friends or, just societal conversations around what a woman's body
Mhm.
should look like or should be. And I start them young. I think that any time is a good time. I do Crohn's tints as well for women who go through menopause.
Mhm.
And in those tints, it's about honoring the fact that they now hold their medicine, they don't release it, and
Mhm.
that they have a deeper insight into life and into the human condition, and just really having them embrace that time.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful free time because you are uninhibited.
That's so true. I mean, you don't have to think about being getting pregnant anymore. There's no more menarche, or sorry, not menarche. Does that mean your period?
Yeah, it
Right?
does.
It's
Like,
just shifted. Yeah.
yeah.
Um, and so that's a great way to look at it. I love that.
Mhm.
And
Yeah, it's the beginning of a new aspect of the life, not a ending. It's not all over. Like,
right.
that's the second childhood. That's the time to experience who you want to be, who you are now, what are you interested in? And
Mhm.
we can start that at any time. And I think when we do that, like my to watch my girls who are
Mhm.
16 and 20, they already have such an understanding of that and the way that they hold themselves and their bodies. It's impressive.
Mhm.
And who they're going to be when if they decide to have babies, to
Mhm.
create families,
Mhm.
I just because I hear them talking, like they're already having conversations about the importance of being seen and heard
Mhm.
in their process because I talk about it with my clients all the time. So I think more conversations, I think understanding that what we are capable of is magic. It is truly, I mean, you understand why we're all over cave dwellings and on pyramids. And if you really understood the ability to do what we do in these human suits as women,
Mhm.
um, yeah, there would be no bowing down. There would be only standing up,
That's so
straight
true.
up.
Women are incredible. We really are. And I don't say that to toot our own horns, but just because of the divinely given capacity that we have to sustain life and to give life. And it's miraculous.
Yeah, we do all those things. We nourish, we feed, we hold, we bridge, we
Mhm.
counsel. We do so much. And any aspect that we choose to show up in is a beautiful aspect of being a woman. Like,
Mhm.
not, it's just it's beautiful and it should be honored, you know.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I just feel like if we trusted that and trusted ourselves and trusted each other,
Mhm.
wow, the world would not look like this, I'll tell you that much.
It's so true. If we brought more of that kind of divine feminine into every part of the world, whether it was the government or just the hospital, it would look very different.
Very, very different, you know. And I
What
think one of the reasons why I love this conversation is that it's going to open conversations with other everybody, like genders and everything. Like it can just, because we need to have that conversation about the masculine feminine balance.
Okay, talk about that.
Well, a lot of this is because we're out of balance. I have times as a single woman where I'm out in the world and I'm really in my masculine energy. And I know that I do better and the world around me does better when I walk in balance. When
Mhm.
not, because that's the old conversation that you have to have that masculine to make something happen. That's a very old, outdated conversation. What I know to be true, especially in my family, is that the women are badass. and they get things done, and they hold families together and communities together. They're powerhouses.
Yes.
And I think one of the things that I trust about that is because I saw it with my own eyes.
Mm,
I saw them take flight at the age of 50.
mm. Wow.
Yeah, start new everything at the age of 50. There's a resilience and a strength and a beauty in that, and I think that if we have more conversations around trust and masculine and feminine in our daily lives, in our relationships, if men walked around balanced, I've
Mm.
seen it, it does exist, it can happen, but who's running things now is not that,
Mhm.
but they're out there.
Mhm.
And the more we bring this conversation out there, the more people will say, oh, maybe I'm out of balance. Let me see how I bring my masculine, my feminine together. Let me see
Yes.
how that makes me think. How does that make me, what does that help me choose?
Mhm.
Politically, what does help me choose, you know, to put in my body? Like
Mm.
all of it would change.
Mhm. I love that. How do we balance those in birth? Is there a place for masculine energy in birth?
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes, it is. So many times I've witnessed the transformation of the masculine energy, whether it's held by a female partner or not,
Mhm.
is that there's such complete anchoring of that laboring mama in
Mm.
a way that is complete and strong and
Mm.
and committed.
Mm.
It's just like that energy, and that is some, those terms are some of the terms that we look for when we hear about, oh, I'm looking for the perfect man. I want somebody who's committed. I want somebody who's invested, somebody who's really strong. I want
Mm.
somebody who's gonna um, really be able to support me and anchor me down in life, right,
Mm.
and grow with me. And then that's how it shows up in labor. It usually takes a minute, because
Mhm.
at first they're just like, what's going on, especially if they're the first time masculine, right?
Yeah.
But there's always that time period right around transition when things are
Mm.
getting real, and all of a sudden they show up in the room completely and strongly with the coaching. You can do this. I believe in you. You're
Mm.
amazing. Oh my gosh, this is so beautiful. You are incredible to me. Look what you're doing.
Mhm.
That's the part. That part, that is a really strong masculine man who's allowing the feminine to show up and
Mm.
speak the truths to his partner so
Mm.
that she can show up powerfully in her vulnerability. That is everything.
I love that. You know what it sounds like to me? It sounds like I once heard a midwife use the analogy of being like a shore, and the woman can crash on the shore and know that she's going to be okay, kind of like a wave, or
Yeah.
um, so just being her shore, her safe place, her steady rock.
Yeah, my a woman I work with a lot, and she's also one of my mentors, Bliss.
Mhm.
She always uses the analogy of a river,
Mhm.
that the mom's just flowing down the river. She doesn't know where she's going, she's just going.
Mhm.
And that partner, that masculine energy, is just supporting her so she doesn't run over the banks, not
Mm.
stopping her, not adding to it, just guiding her gently down.
Mm.
I love
Being
that.
a container for her.
Yeah,
Oh, I like Bliss's analogy way better. That's
I
a good.
know. Bliss Young, oh my gosh, she's got so many of those.
You know what, Ace? We actually interviewed Bliss too. So
You did.
yeah, she's part of the summit. So fun. All these beautiful women together. Let's say you're starting with a client. She's just a few months along. Tell me about the process. Where are you going to walk she and her partner through? What are you going to walk them through during the months that they are working together with you? What's important for them to learn and to know and to grow into?
Well, I feel very strongly, very, very, very strongly, that gender is a conversation that I start with.
Mhm.
Gender and gender roles. Who do you think you are as a male or a female? What does that mean to you? I start there.
Mhm.
And from there, it begins to just unfold. And I find these little nuggets. What is your belief system? What do you do when you're feeling out of sorts? When you're in pain, what do you do? Like, I want to know all of those things because we're building on not only their mindset for birth, but also their level of what's okay and what's normal. You
Mhm.
know, so one of the things why I start with that is because one of the things I've seen traveling and studying midwifery all around the world is that we have a thing here about creature comforts, about instant gratification, and so I start with all of this to say that birth is and pregnancy is all about hurry up, wait,
Mhm.
and who are you going to be if you have to just be patient, if you have no control, if you have to just breathe, if you can't fix something, if nothing's broken in the first place to fix, who are you? So I
Mhm.
put them in all these situations and these uncomfortable scenarios and ask them to resolve it. And we just start walking. And then as we're doing that, it's helping them find their power, their voice, their autonomy, everything. So that by the time we go through the stages of labor and what the interventions are and what the complications could be and all the things, they are really clear in their communication chakra. They
Mhm.
are really in their bodies and they are purposeful about how they are moving towards their labor. It's a beautiful thing.
So it's a process. It's not just,
Mm-mm.
and I love that you pointed out that in our culture we like things right away when we want them. We're the generation of Instacart and Amazon, Prime, and all the things.
Yeah. And birth is, as you know, like nature. It does its cycle and it takes its time.
Mhm.
And to the naked eye, it looks like it's going really slowly. But underneath it all, there's a lot happening,
Mhm.
right?
And a woman who truly knows herself and who knows her power. Just thinking about what you said about your daughters, um, how does that change? So let's say she shows up to the hospital and someone is trying to take that power from her with their words or their actions. How is that woman who is deeply connected with herself? How will she respond?
Well, what I've seen from my many beautiful clients is that all in kindness and in love and in respect, because they did choose to go to the hospital, right?
Mhm.
But they also have the ability to say, I hear what you're saying. That doesn't really resonate with me. It doesn't feel like that's my truth, but let's put a pin in that and revisit it in three hours.
Mhm. Mm.
They're just so clear and they can slow it down because one of the things I do speak to them first about is like, they're at work, you're not,
Mhm.
right? This is a sacred moment for you or a big event in your life, at least, and they're every day at work. So I do speak to them about slowing the working staff down,
Mhm.
right? Just saying, oh, I know that you just said something that's really important. I'm in labor so real right now. Could you just slow down and repeat that?
Mhm.
And if they can't do that, I do that. And then they pick up on it and it just,
Mhm.
it changes the game, but they can speak up for themselves. What's more powerful, me advocating for my client? No, because who am
Mhm.
I? Right.
Yeah.
But my clients being able to advocate for themselves, to be able to use the terminology, to be able to understand what these things are and what they are markers for. Um, for example,
Yes.
I had a client, oh, she was so good. I was so proud of her because when we began, she was very meek and mild, very docile.
Mhm.
And in this labor, the doctor and the nurse came in and said, we're going to start you on a round of Pitocin because you've been at this point is nothing's changed. You're still the same. It's been like this for 4 hours. And yeah, we're gonna start you on a low dose, but we're gonna start you. And my my client just said she looked at them and she didn't say anything. And then the doctor said, "Do you understand?" And she said, "I completely understand your desire to augment my labor. But according to Dr. Feldman, this curve is not even really accurate. So I'm going to just let things unfold. I feel fine. Baby's fine. We had no emergencies, nothing's to give us any hint that we are in a rush. So I'm not in a rush. I'm good. So yeah, no, I'm going to get up. I'll change positions. I'll try some things." And I just, my mouth to the ground because she hadn't, she hadn't voiced her opinion or said anything like that so strongly. It was beautiful. And then after that, she just kept utilizing a loving no. No, 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 thank you. No. And I was so proud of her because I kept telling her, I want you to find your loving no. If you're good, if you want it, fine. But if you don't, find that loving no. Oh, she found it. She found it and she spoke it. And at the end, she actually removed somebody from her room. She's like, "You should go now because you're not happy. You don't like my choices. I like my choices. You should leave." Her husband was shocked,
I bet.
but it was so great.
Yeah.
And it was great for their parenthood because they were having issues with their prospective parents, the grandparents. And this allowed them to be able to set boundaries and to speak what they desired to be the truth for their household and their family. It was a beautiful thing. I just bowed down and applauded. And I was like, wow. And she did it all with a smile. There was nothing
You
disrespectful about it.
pointed out something so important, that advocacy for ourselves doesn't have to be loud. It doesn't have to be aggressive. It can come with that beautiful feminine energy of groundedness and just that knowing. And that's so cool, Hayes.
Right?
And what you said is also so important, just to unpack that, how what she did in her labor extended into her personal life beyond that birth. It was
And
setting her up to be an advocate in her future life.
exactly. And that's why, for me, it is important for birth to be honored as a rite of passage because you have the moments like that growth transcending the old self, the smaller self,
Yeah.
and who doesn't want to acknowledge a milestone like that?
That's so
Big one.
good.
Mhm.
What did you say about, you called yourself milestone Hayes? What did you say?
Oh,
Milestone marker.
a
You're,
milestone marker, yeah.
yes.
Well, because I am also a ordained minister, a reverend, so I can marry them.
Yeah.
Um, I can dedicate the baby. I do lots of house blessings and clearings, and um, I do rite of passages for young girls and young men, and in all of the ways, I am somebody who acknowledges growth and acknowledges a new direction in a lifetime.
You sound like the village medicine woman. That's what it sounds like.
That's what it feels like. That's what I do, basically. And it's just things that I've learned that were in my family. We've always been farmers or teachers,
Mm,
all the way back to 1820, and
mm,
it's innate to me to understand the healing aspect of herbs and to be called in to say, hey, there's something going on with my chest, could you make me something? Sure.
mm, mm.
And to hear that it worked and they feel great. And
Yeah.
it's also a, I don't know how many times we're going to circle back, just trusting my medicine,
Mhm,
which I encourage all my mamas to do, because we all walk with medicine. We all have something that is uniquely ours and a gift for us. And one of mine is understanding herbs and being able to work with them and understanding people.
mhm,
I think one of my superpowers, I always say this, one of my superpowers is that I allow people to feel safe and
mhm,
feel comfortable.
mhm,
So it makes anything that's challenging a little bit better,
mhm.
you know. So people do come to me for challenging moments, which is how I end up guiding people out of this life as well as into this life.
Oh, do you?
Mhm.
I didn't realize that. And that really is what a traditional midwife has always done, isn't it?
Yeah.
She's been she's given herbs, she's been at birth, she's been at death, at all the important moments in someone's life.
Mhm.
That's so beautiful.
Yeah. So there's something to be said about trusting your innate gifts, trusting yourself so much that you can support other people, you
Mm,
know, and then those people build their own trust too. And it just keeps going, or
mhm,
at least it should, if there's a should,
mhm,
you know, that especially between women, you know, I just, I encourage a lot of conversations with birth workers about, especially the doulas that I train,
mm,
about really just supporting your sister, so trusting, like not doing this male aspect of this, you know, competition, this jealousy, this backstabbing, this fighting, this we women don't naturally do that.
yeah, agreed.
It's just not done. And when we trust each other and trust it, then we can be powerful as a community and
Mm,
make huge changes in our government and in our, you know, country. It's just like, but we
mm,
have to be united first.
mhm. Hayes, I think you bring up a really important point, that something about feminine energy is that it's about building and creation. And so if ever we find ourselves tearing down, criticizing, angry, then we're not in the right energy of where we need to be. Discuss for those birth workers who are watching, there are two things as we wrap up, I'd love for us to talk about. The first one is just what you were talking about, this the kind of tearing down, the anger. um, so, how can we shift that as doulas and midwives?
Well, I can speak of how I'm shifting that.
Mm,
So as I'm training my doulas, it's a part of our education material. You know, how you treat people, how you respect people, the integrity that you hold, the ethics that you have for the art of being a birth keeper, like whatever it means to you, like to keep it really high. Like, and when you're doing that and when you're being conscious about it, it's kind of like we have to do our own individual work before we can ask our clients to do anything,
mm,
right?
yeah,
We do. And that would include being able to non-violently resolve an issue that you have with another birth keeper instead of going off and degrading her, maligning her energy or him,
mm,
um, and causing, you know, perhaps harm to their livelihood. Help them grow.
mm,
If help each other grow. You
mhm,
know, just resolve it peacefully and lovingly. Say, you know, it hurt my feelings, or it really did this when you took this and you didn't give me a nod and you knew I started it, blah, 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 whatever the thing is. Like, that's a very low frequency kind of example because
mhm,
nobody owns anything in birth anymore. We all do the things.
mhm,
But you know what I mean? So
mhm,
somebody said something and it's just small, just to own it and say, you know what, thank you so much. I didn't realize how my behavior was affecting you or causing a rift in the community. Thank you for letting me know. And now that I do know, I will do better and I will, you know, that is a healing
mhm,
that promotes trust, closeness, community. The other stuff
mhm,
promotes divisiveness. It, I mean, we already have such a disjointed community in America as it is. Let's not, we have to, I just feel like we have to hold it high. Otherwise, we're going to lose the art of midwifery, the art of doulaship, all of
yeah,
it
yes.
snatched away from us.
It's so true. I feel like if we feed the energy of distraction and criticism and anger, then we're tearing our own profession down. And you're right, we've got to stick together.
Yep,
Mm.
absolutely.
Here's another, just I want to talk all day to you. I But I do have one more question that's been on my mind as we've been talking, and that is for a doula or a midwife, when they are at a birth in that capacity and they feel their intuition teaching them something, telling them to do something, how do we act on that intuition without stepping on the parent's own agency and their intuition? How do we balance the two?
This is what I do. I always say that I'm a heart-led spiritual facilitator, mentor, and master doula. And the reason why I say heart-led is because I believe in the intelligence of the heart. The ego and the mind can be a little bit of a trap, right? So I drop in. If I hear something, if there's some intuition coming to me, I drop in to the heart space, and then I bring it up to my head space to see if it's me wanting to do something. If it's
Mm,
ego driven, what's the outcome? This is this important? Does it even need to be said? You know?
yeah, so good.
And then I drop back into the heart again. And if the heart says, no, it's all good, just hold your own space. And I
Mhm.
do.
Mm.
I
If
think we just have to do that inner work, you know? Why do we want to do something? Why do we feel like this is important?
mm, I
It might
agree.
be something for another birth. It might not be that birth.
Good point. Can you
Mhm.
imagine how birth in the hospital would change if every hospital provider, and perhaps for birth at home and in birth centers for that means,
Yeah,
if everyone did that, if they checked themselves before they spoke these words, because a woman is so vulnerable in her labor, and what we say and what we do can affect her for the rest of her life.
exactly. Which is why, for my practice, I take such preparation before I get to a birth. Like there's a lot I do to set my energy, my mind space of, just to prepare to go and support, because I do know that what I say or do can last on that body. And let's make sure it's good.
That's beautiful and so powerful. So I think, Hayes, my takeaway from everything you've said today is let's do the work on ourselves, whether we are a parent, whether we are a doula or a midwife or any medical provider. Let's work on this first and then go out there and serve.
Yeah. Let's make it meaningful. I mean, this life is so short. And this is the hard part is getting born. That's the hard part. A million things have to happen at the right millisecond for life to even be, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
This is just the cherry on top. This is the fun part. This is the part you get to play, create, transcend, grow, learn, experience. So do it with some intention, do it with some consciousness around it, and enjoy yourself.
I love that. Hayes Hawk. I love it. So tell us about Hayes. You have something really special for our viewers. Can you tell us a bit about it?
Yes. So, my gift for everyone is a series of womb meditations that I have done for uh, my Abeni retreat. And the meditations are really geared towards womb wellness, connecting with the womb, because the wisdom seat for women is right here. This is where our wisdom comes from. This is where we don't get a gut instinct. We feel it in our womb, right? It's from there. So connecting to there is important, and grounding in our life is also important. And then being connected to all that is very important. So I have three different meditations. One is working with the root chakra, one is working with the crown chakra, and the last one is working with the whole body.
Oh, I cannot wait to listen to that. I told you before we even started that I'm planning to download that. Just, I need more of that in my life. Hayes, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me. This has been lovely.
I agree. And thank you, parents, doulas, and midwives who are with us today. We hope that you strengthened your trust muscle, and we'll see you next time.